G'day audiophiles, so this is the Sirens of Audio, the Doctor Who Audio Universe podcast, and we have been hijacked this week. My name is Dwayne, I'm your host, and we're going to be talking about the Big Finish original drama release that has just appeared in our downloads this last Friday. That is The Human Frontier by Nicholas Briggs.
From Big Finish Productions.
9, 8, 7, 6, ignition, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The volunteers successfully blasted off earlier today in a textbook launch.
I don't want to be put to sleep again.
Emergency cryogenic awakening sequence activated. Emergency cryogenic awakening sequence activated. It's a planet. At 307 years into a 900 plus journey, it's a planet. Previously unknown, very possibly life-supporting. Very, very possibly.
They said they were setting me free.
They don't understand.
Are you sure?
Open fire!
It's okay, it's okay.
DNA. And a diagram of a human and a star system.
Lily?
It's coming back for you.
What? Lily? What did you mean? Lily?
Yes, Anna?
I'm glad you're with me.
Thank you, Anna. The Human Frontier by Nicholas Briggs.
Big Finish. We love stories.
All right, there was a little trailer for you for The Human Frontier. We've left the Doctor Who universe. We're now in uncharted territory. We're here to talk to the writer and director, Nicholas Briggs. How are you?
I'm good, yes. Speaking across the internet.
Isn't it amazing? From the wilds of Tasmania across to the UK. How are things going over there?
You've today we've had our first bad weather day, because the weirdly ironic coincidence about this whole pandemic thing is that we've had almost blanket atypical, brilliant, sunny weather. And of course, you've heard about how appalling our weather is. And today we've got our first day of rain, which everyone's grateful for because everyone was worrying about their plants in the garden. So, yeah, that's that. I mean, look, I'm English. The first thing I talk about is the weather. What a cliche.
Now, the first thing that I can remember seeing you in was an old video that had the name Myth Runner on it. And you were running around like Rick Deckard doing something. I can't even remember who you were interviewing at the time, but you've been doing
Loads
things
of different people.
You've been doing stuff involved with Doctor Who and Doctor Who fandom for a long time. Everyone wants to be you, Nick, I think.
Well, I don't know whether that's true, but and it's a slightly alarming thought. I remember, Frank Skinner, who's a comedian and actor here, and he's been in a few Big Finish things. When I first met him, he said to me, you permeate all levels of Doctor Who and fandom, Nick. He said, you're everywhere. And he'd said to me, it was when they were doing the 5-ish Doctors, and I said, oh, it's lovely to meet you. And he said, well, I only came here to meet you. And I laughed, because I thought, oh, comedian, very funny. But it turned out apparently that it was actually true. Because then he said, oh, I was listening to Dark Eyes the other day. And I thought, oh, my goodness, you really do listen to Big Finish, don't you? And so, yeah, that's when I asked him to be in Dark Eyes too. And other things have happened since then. So it's been brilliant. But, yeah.
He was in Callan, wasn't he?
Yeah, we got him in Callan. Yeah, I asked him whether he wanted to do that. He said, "Oh, definitely." And we finally managed to record the second series, really because of
that's
lockdown.
Awesome. I've been really anticipating that for a long time. I wasn't even sure if you were going to go ahead with it. I enjoyed the first book so much.
We were always going to go ahead. It's just Ben Miles who played Callan, suddenly seemed to have in his contract that he had to be in every single TV series and film being made. So he was suddenly, he was so nearly available. Days. Yeah, and he's brilliant, and so he should be. He was so nearly available, it was sort of like next week, okay, next week, yeah, Frank's available. Oh, hold on a sec, the filming started earlier, what's going on? It was just like that for probably a whole year. So I had great fun returning as Hunter, who's Callan's horrible boss, the head of the section, recording that in my bedroom upstairs with this thing, Dwayne, you can see behind me this, with my head in this strange sound insulating box.
So that's how it's done. Yeah, it looks like an old fridge. It looks like an old fridge from this angle.
It does, doesn't it? My wife has a name for it. I can't remember. Oh, sidecar. She thinks it looks like an old sidecar that you'd put on a motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
But it's not quite that big. But yeah, so I carried that upstairs to my bedroom, which is much quieter than the shed you see me in now, Dwayne. Because here you can hear, because I live near the sea, you can hear a lot of seagulls and birds and goodness knows what, and a road nearby. But yeah, great fun playing Hunter again, sitting up in a lot of practical. I'm a great fan of this sort of thing on Audio Drama, where people go, yes, do you know, one of the things. And they, I love that reality of hearing someone's voice disappear inside a glass and the sipping and everything. I always try and get sipping and in the ones I'm allowed to, the non-Doctor Who ones, bit of smoking in as well, where people are constantly sucking their fingers and going, yes, just especially if it's a sort of period thing like The Prisoner, because that's the big difference. When you look at any old TV or movies, everyone's drinking and smoking all the time. Even in kids' programs, even in Thunderbirds, they had sort of little cigarettes dangling off their plastic lips, But so I did a lot of that for Callan. Yeah, I was doing a lot of drinking of whiskey, not really whiskey.
I was trying to introduce my kids to the wonders of Gatchaman the other day, or as we know in the English-speaking world, Battle of the Planets. Very old anime. Lots and lots of smoking in that. I thought, my kids aren't used to seeing this. They're looking at all these smoking people. I'm thinking, that's new.
God, I didn't know they had smoking in that. Isn't that? You just don't remember it, do you? Because it just seemed normal at the time. Different times, different social practices.
Now, we are here to talk specifically about The Human Frontier.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations on that being released. I've been waiting for that for quite some time. I know you only recorded it recently, but this has been on the cards for a long time. And
is this a complaint?
Don't be so worried. It's okay. It's all good.
I feel under pressure.
Don't feel under pressure.
Okay.
The thing that intrigued me about The Human Frontier was something that I think was said right from the outset about how much you were personally invested in this story. It was such a big deal for you. And even throughout the extras that I've heard, interviews that I've read, you've got a great deal of almost anxiety about wanting this to really succeed. Well, obviously you want it to succeed, but you seem more invested in this than you are a lot of your other material. Why are you more invested in this than say Dalek Empire, for instance?
Well, first of all, I'm absolutely invested in everything I do. It has to mean something to me. Otherwise, I'm not very good at cynicism. I have to love it. Otherwise, I'm out the door. But obviously, the reason why I appear to be, and probably am a little bit more invested in this, is because than I am normally, and I'm always fully invested. I sound like a politician. Is because I've created it from the ground up. And Doctor Who is something I love with a passion, likewise The Prisoner and many other things we do, but they are other people's sandpits. And so there's an extra pressure when you've created it all. I mean, it feels more exposing, because these are my ideas. They're not, Sidney Newman's or Verity Lambert's or Terry Nation's ideas extrapolated across many years. They are my ideas. They are bound to be revealing in some way about me, I suppose. And so that creates a slight anxiety. But hey, look, I'm doing it and saying and daring to believe that it might be worth other people's attention. So there's that double-edged thing. You want people to love it, and you're sort of being anxious about it, but you've got no right to be anxious because you did it, It's just, I didn't have to go and make some blooming audio drama, did I? I thought it would be a good idea, mainly because my motivation, as I've said possibly 1,000,003 times before, I'll do anything to get the crazy stuff that goes on in my head out in reality somehow. You know, the fantasies that I spend most of my time living in, a fantasy world of imagined ideas, and to make any of that real in any way, tangible. And the way I'm doing it mostly these days is through audio drama. You know, I will run to that. And so when we were doing the Big Finish originals, when we decided to do that as a way of celebrating 20 years of Big Finish, looking forward by demonstrating our, you know, original creativity rather than just looking at the heritage of Big Finish and saying, oh, what about Chimes of Midnight and Spare Parts, which are brilliant, but we always go on about them. We decided to do something, a whole series of original things. I said, well, I'd like to be a part of this. And I knew it would have to be a science fiction thing. And so my ideas started to formulate. And then, although I'm anticipating answering several of your questions before you've asked them, then I, because of all the things that are going on in Big Finish all the time, I was distracted from it at several points, which is why it slipped back in the release schedule. But I don't want to dwell on that. It's here now.
Yeah. Would you like to know what I think of it?
Okay.
I've only heard it the once, and I absolutely loved it. Now,
I can relax
the idea that came across to me just by looking at the concept, it's not like this epic space kind of saga, not something that overly appeals to me at the start, but I find that anything that you write, and I'm not trying to be your best friend now, but anything that you write, I always find has something that's more interesting than it looks on the surface. Always something deeper in it, and that's what I found with this. I like the way you write too. With you tend to write from time to time in a very non-linear way. Probably the best example that you've written in the Doctor Who universe is Creatures of Beauty, which was
Yes.
a great experiment, which worked really, really well, and it still gets a lot of kudos to this day. The Human Frontier was not quite as trippy as Creatures of Beauty, but it sort of flashes forward, flashes backward, and you've really got to be involved with the story to follow it, which is what you want. But it's not going to give you an easy ride. You've got to concentrate on it.
Yes.
And what I really like about how it's been presented, particularly in the app, I have never noticed it before, but this has got the scripts within the app.
Yes.
So for the first time ever, I actually followed along with the script.
How weird.
For the first episode, I followed along with the script, and I think the last
I bet we changed
episode
some
too.
bits, didn't we? I bet we changed some of it around.
Only some minor changes. It wasn't too big, so I found that fascinating too. But also the context of the sound effects was really, really interesting as well. So I find it interesting that I think previously you were involved a lot in sound design, but you're not as much these days, are you?
No, and not by choice, but just by time restriction, really. It's one of the most time-consuming parts of the process. All-consuming and time-consuming. I am going to be doing some sound design coming this year, which is the first I've done for ages and ages. I do music. You can do music a bit quicker for whatever reason. Maybe because I'm just doing it badly, I don't know. But sound effects, I get, rather than doing sound design, because I love sound design, I just talk to sound designers about it, and that kind of has to be the compensation for not doing it all the time. I talk to Benji Clifford about sound design a lot, and he says, I've just come up with this noise. Or Ian Meadows, who did The Human Frontier, to discuss sound design with him too. But no, I don't do it. So I would have loved to have done the sound design for The Human Frontier, but just no time, just busy doing all sorts. But I did do the music.
So just quietly, the format of the scripts within the app, is that the format you're accepting scripts from for all budding writers?
Yeah, that's generally the format. It's the simplest format. It doesn't involve any clever formatting. we just put the name of the character in block capitals and bold so that the actors can easily spot it, with a colon, and then return, carriage return, and then the dialogue underneath, and all justified to the left. Nothing fancy. It doesn't look like a film script or anything, and all the sound effects in block capitals in between. Some people put FX before the sound effects, but I find that needlessly pedantic, because sometimes the things you put in the stage directions are not directly sound effects. They're indications of what is happening, which helps the sound designer, work out what to do, or helps the actor to know what to do, that they're meant to be running along. I mean, that's generally the format. Generally, we use a different font. We use Courier, but when I'm doing a pet project like this or The Prisoner, I always opt for Helvetica or something like that. I prefer that less fussy font, but for everything else, it's Courier on each scene. I'm telling people so that they know, and obviously you're hinting that you want to write a script, it sounds to me.
Oh, there's thousands of us that want to write scripts.
It's and for the scene header, it's bold and underlined, so it's really simple. What struck me, dabbling with TV years ago. Oh, that's my head of marketing phoning me. Hold on, I'll just tell him I'm on an interview. Keep all this in, it's authentic. Hello, Steve, I'm in the middle of a podcast interview. Can I call you back?
So rude.
Oh, sorry, I realised I had my headphone. Right. That was a completely technologically mismanaged call. I was speaking to him and my microphone is right over the other side. It's very boring. Anyway, remind me what I was talking about. The scripts. I was just going through the boring...
just the scripts, yeah, scripts.
Yeah, but I always like, on the point of the scripts, anything that I'm very closely involved, I would like all Big Finish productions to have their scripts available. We do it for the main range, I believe, or the monthly adventures, but none of the others. It's thought to be too time consuming to check through the scripts to make sure it all tallies up with the finished production. But I think we should do it with everything we do. But I have a battle to win in Big Finish about that. So as part of my argument about that, I put it in everything I do. The Prisoner, you'll find that the scripts are all available as well. And I did some digital packaging in this. So even though it's not a CD release, there's a digital version of a booklet with information and what have you in it. So
yeah, I really like that. So I'm hoping that you do more of that with across the board. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll certainly look into that. I love that. I'd like to make it as, special a package as it can be. You talked about the non-linear storyline thing. The reason I do that is because there are two things, really. One that Stephen Moffat said to me recently, which he said the only real power a writer has is the order in which they tell their story. Which is why he objects to spoilers, because he said, you're taking away from me the ability to tell the story in order, because you're giving the audience information in the wrong order. You're telling them something that happens later, earlier, and that messes up me as a storyteller. And I think that's a good point. I'm not so worried about spoilers. I think sometimes you've got to give a lot away to entice people in. And funnily enough, it's not the what, it's the how that actually interests people in plots. People think it's the what, thinks what happens, but it's how it unfolds that really grabs us. And if your story is going to be spoilt by just knowing a fact, then perhaps it's not that good a story in the first place. That's not me talking to Stephen, by the way. I would never say anything so horrid. And also I don't believe that about his work. But the reason I do the non-linear thing is that I think, contrary to what we all instinctively believe, we don't really experience our worlds, our lives, our thoughts in a chronological order. We think we do, because we think, well, we get up in the morning and we have breakfast and we go through the day, and then later on I'll go for a drink with my mates when we were allowed to go for drinks with our mates. But if you go inside someone's head, which is where we all live, you're constantly thinking about the past, projecting to the future, thinking about something that happened just a few minutes ago, and all that. We constantly process information in a chronologically non-linear way. And so this was an attempt to say that this is an attempt to mimic that, to actually in a slightly uncomfortable way, mimic the way we personally process information. So to make the story seem somehow closer to us and in our heads more, especially all that business of the AI nearly talking in people's heads. I wanted it to feel like the story was, personal for everyone in a way. And also toy with the idea, although it doesn't quite work because we cut to other scenes with other people in, that it's sort of what the character of Anna, who's the main character really, the exographer who wakes up on the human frontier spaceship, that sort of it could be what she experiences when she's being put back to sleep in the story, and she's getting flashes of, it's a bit like her life flashing before her. She's getting flashes of all the things that have happened, the things that are most important to her. So you have her on the planet with Daisy and embracing, and then suddenly you cut to her rushing through space in a search pod trying to find Daisy, and we think, hold on, you were just with her and now you're trying to find her, where is she? And it's and ultimately
that's where following along with the script helped.
Yeah. Well, I'd be it's interesting. Did you followed along with the script straight away, did you?
The first episode I did, yeah. I think maybe I started 10 pages in, but it was virtually the start. So yeah, it was interesting. I found the sound, the FX descriptions sort of happen a lot quicker than you can actually read them. So
yes.
I found myself mentally going back and thinking, okay, that description said that. What was I listening to? It was a really interesting experience. It was brand new.
I would love it if you'd listened without reading the script first, because along with it first, because it would have been interesting to know how disorientating the flipping back in time was. But of course, yeah, absolutely. In the script, it tells you, it says, oh, this is 1,000 years since launch. This is 300 years since launch. All that information is there for the actors. What I did, by the by, and for the script editor as well, what I did when I recorded it, I worked out, I actually wrote it in the order it's in, by the way. I didn't write it in chronological order and then jumble it up. This is how the story came to me. But then I went through and worked out the actual chronological order and put all the scenes in that order, and that's the order I recorded them in. So none of the actors would be going, hold on, this is all confusing because this is in, when they said, what's just happened? I said, the thing we did in the last scene, the one before we did this. So it was really, and a lot of the actors, when I say a lot of them, there weren't many of them, actors were kind of going, as they were doing the scenes and moving from one to the other, that you could see them going, oh, I'm getting this, because they were doing it in inverted commas the right order. And I've got this sort of ambition, I don't know whether I'll do it, but I want to release another version in chronological order a few months down the line if I get time. For everyone who's got this one, it'll be free. They just get it from their account and think, oh, that's interesting to hear it in that order, because some of the first scenes are some of the last scenes you hear, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting. I was listening to this only a few days ago, and I was watching the news. So I was watching the race riots in America, feeling like I was sitting inside the reminder room on the spaceship in Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Sadly, I know exactly what you mean.
I was asking Google something, so we've almost got that AI in our heads right now. Yes. And I was also watching the launch of the SpaceX rocket.
Which would have happened on the same day that Human Frontier was launched, but there was bad weather.
That's right, yeah. But it just so happened that I listened to the Human Frontier on a couple of days later as well. But I found it fascinating. Did you notice the SpaceX launch? Some of the visuals looked exactly like the space maneuverings in Ambassadors of Death, which
wow,
is absolutely fascinating. So it's almost like science
without
fiction
the cheesy
is becoming
music.
Cheesy? What do you mean?
There was some cheesy music in that first episode of Ambassador's Death. I was like,
yeah, I know.
It sounded like jazz.
Yeah, a bit of Hammond. There was a bit of Hammond in there.
There certainly was a bit of Hammond organ.
Yeah. So yeah, it's almost like science fiction is becoming closer and closer to reality. So it was a bit of a freaky kind of a day, the day I listened to the Human Frontier.
Gosh,
all those things happening at once.
Well, of course, as you well know, science fiction is never really about the future. It's really about the obsessions of the present being projected onto a fantastical science fiction background for the benefit of sort of alienation purposes, to make it strange, so that we look at it in a new light. And then as we're watching or listening or reading, we suddenly think, God, this reminds me of my world, and oh, this is, it's always about the obsessions of the present, I think. And this is no exception. It's inevitable, actually. If one of my ideas was that the two different versions of humanity would be separated by language, not speaking different languages, but such different forms of English as for them to be confused by each other. But I think that would be quite tedious to listen to. It's probably better for a book, I suppose. I don't know, where you've got more time to consider. But I was fascinated by that idea, because the way we speak now, we think we speak, pretty clear English, and we're making ourselves well understood. But imagine going back to the 60s and speaking, and you'd find all sorts of phrases that we wouldn't understand that they said. And then maybe go back to, this, oh, what the heck is it now? Oh, it's Jason. I'm going to have to tell him now. Hi, Jason. I'm in the middle of a podcast interview at the moment. Can I call you back? Oh, cheers, mate. Bye. It's like I've arranged these to make it sound like I'm a busy, important person. It's just actually my alarm going off, and I'm just pretending that people want to speak to me.
Is he in Sydney at the moment?
Jason?
Yeah. No, the only
he's
reason
not.
I ask is because I saw some Zoom stills that you put up on Big Finish page, and for his background he had the Opera House. So I thought,
He did,
maybe
didn't he? Yeah.
maybe
He's
still in
visited
Sydney.
Australia a lot. And
Yeah.
so he has a big love for your country, and so he's got lots of lovely photographs of it in his album. So he just whacked those behind him. I put photographs of Exelon behind me, but
Well, there you go.
I mean, I can do
There
that
you go.
now for you. Actually, that'd be good, wouldn't it? That'll just amuse you. I mean, no good for the listeners, obviously, but this is my favourite one that I like to put up. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's just a bunch of Exelons. Yeah. All right,
It's
I'll get
not
rid of
just. I've screenshotted that, so it's gone. It's out there now.
It's out there. The truth is out there. Here's a better one to have. There we are. That's better. I'll just
nice.
move out the way, and then you can see Petalunga
Very good.
in her space.
One other thing that I did after listening to The Human Frontier is I watched the 1 minute trailer video that's
Oh
up
yes.
online, which is absolutely fantastic. It gives so much context to the story, which I wish I'd have watched before. Because it's everything was that's that and that's that, and it was really good.
Did
what
you
think of
see
that?
the little? Oh, sorry. Go on. You asked me a question. I didn't.
No, I just wondered what you thought of the trailer that was put together.
Oh well, I was very keen. Chris Thompson, who did it, is a very talented chap who does stuff for us, and I'm very keen to get him on board. I wanted us to. I sent him the scripts as soon as they were finished, and he came up with ideas and said, I'd like to do a title sequence kind of thing. And he said, but it'd be really good if we could have Pepta doing that thing about not wanting to go to sleep, and then we just pull back from her. Is there any chance you can get her to video that? So I texted Pepta and said, do you fancy doing a little bit of promotion? And so bless her, she got a t-shirt and everything and filmed herself with her phone against a blank wall. I said, if you just got a blank wall in your flat somewhere. And so then she just sent that footage over to Chris, and he incorporated it in his animation. But I think it's always, I know it's a contradiction in terms because it's audio, but I think it's important to have a big visual thing to pull you into the audio, because once you're in the audio, it becomes visual for you anyway. But, to attract people's attention, I think it's, I think possibly for most people, the primary sense is audio, is visual. But once you pull people in and get inside their minds, then they're on board with the audio, I think. But and there's did you see the little teasers with Nilly talking to you as well? There was some.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, throughout the day of release, we had Nilly saying, "Hello, this is Nilly here. You probably think you're hearing me, but actually, I'm inside your head." And then other ones saying, "It's Nilly here. The mission is going really well." And then there's a sort of glitch. Things that. something has gone a little bit wrong, and it's just sort of teasing people along the way. Well, I can see that.
I can't remember, but I can't remember. But Lucy, is she a relation of yours?
No, not at all. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
just a
I've
coincidence.
asked her several times about the fact that Briggs is in her name, and she always goes, "Oh, it's not. No, it's not really." And she doesn't want to talk about it. It's something to do with.
Well, that's
I
intriguing.
think, yeah, I've got a feeling she's explained it to me, and it was so dull that I've just forgotten the answer. Or she was being cagey. I think both of those things have happened. I think that there was another actor called Lucy Owen, maybe, and she had to just add something. Another bit to her name, but no, there's I would love to be related to Lucy. I would love her to be my sister. I haven't got a sister. She is one of the most delightful human beings, and I have said to her on numerous occasions, and she's only slightly alarmed, that you have to, Lucy, you have to be in everything I direct, which of course can't really be the case, but it's nearly the case though, isn't it? It's nearly the case.
Very good. Since we're talking about cast,
Yes.
the Human Frontier is such a sort of a expansive concept. It's crossing the galaxy kind of mind-bending stuff. How to create that kind of massive world with such a small cast on audio? It kind of reminded me a little bit of Earth Search in a way, the original Earth Search radio plays, which were very small cast but huge concept.
Bigger cast than mine though, but yes, it's my speciality, Dwayne, to do that. That's what I like to do. I like to do personal stories in an epic context and just focus on a few characters, but make the backdrop huge and contrast the two. I think it's. I mean, I saw there was an Audible production being advertised, and they said we've got 86 actors in our production of whatever it was, and I just thought, are you kidding me? Why do you need so many people? And I know every actor has a completely individual voice, but there is once you're beyond 5 or 6, it starts to become, who was that one again? It's a bit. Unless they all have very, very different voices, which is largely not the case. And I think you have to, I mean, obviously some stories, when they're adaptations of things, you're stuck with the numbers of characters. Also, you can find actors who can do more than one voice as well. So I don't see the need for 86 of them to turn up. For God's sake. That's just showing off about how much budget they've got, I think. I'm just jealous. I'm just bitter and jealous. That's what it is. But no, I had to tailor it like this because I knew what the budget was anyway. The budgets for the originals were very small because they're not a known franchise, and so we know it's difficult to find an audience. So you don't want to spend huge amounts of money. So I did tailor it to be for a small cast, but I also do, as I said, creatively believe in trying to tell a story through as few characters as possible, really, to make it clearer. There's that thing, picking who your story's about. And even though this story is about a few people, keep it as few as possible, I think. Otherwise, it just becomes a dizzying mess, I feel.
Speaking of cast members doing more than one voice, Mark Elstob, absolutely sensational. He was a standout for me because of the complete... you couldn't tell, you could not tell it was the same actor with those two voices. He's just incredible.
He's great, yeah. That was his job. I thought there'll be one person here. Oh no, actually Genevieve as well doubles up too. And I knew that Genevieve has an astonishing array of accents and voices she can do. But I wanted to give her a part because she's done lots of sort of kooky, crazy parts for us. But I wanted her to play something really from the heart and make it a real personal journey for her. And it was fantastic to work with her in that context. But with Mark, he's got 2 really good parts there. But also he was soaking up all the others. I occasionally ran into the microphone and said, "Yes, sir." Things here and there. But they,
in your lower register. Now I was talking to, who was I talking to recently? John Ainsworth recently, and one of my favourite voices of yours, from the early days, well, maybe not the early days, but almost, is a character called Six Squid from 2008. I just love...
Six Squid, yes,
Yeah,
that's right, yes. It's always squirting, yes.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes, it's pituitary gland or something.
Yeah.
He's always
Yeah.
squirting ink everywhere. That's from the 2000 AD range, yeah. Strontium Dog, no longer available, unfortunately. Some of the best things we did are 2 Strontium Dogs. I'm very proud of those, and John was producing those and directing at least one of them.
They're very good too.
Possibly both
Now,
of them, actually.
there was some tantalising carrots of mystery peppered throughout the human frontier that were never answered. Nick,
I know. Yes.
what is going on? When is the
What?
Human Frontier 2 coming out? That's what I want to know.
Well, Jason Haig-Ellery was just calling. I've asked for a second series, and he's kind of going, we got to wait until the figures, But I just feel that if we were to announce there's a second series, it would give us a real boost. People think, oh, well, I'm in for a big journey here. Let's get on board now. But on the point of the ending that leaves some questions, which clearly you're very angry about.
Oh, yeah.
You're
I'm fuming.
I can tell you're a man of a hot temper. Here's my speech about endings, all right? So press the buzzer if you've heard this before. The thing about endings is that nobody likes them. The moment an audience starts engaging with your bit of art, whether it's a book, a whatever, an audio or a film or anything, they start to, if they engage with your story, they start to build assumptions and expectations about what they think should happen in the end, and they start narrowing it down as the story goes on. Oh, this is going to happen. This thing's going to happen. Right. And the chances of you matching, because we're all very, very different, aren't we? All we human beings. The chances of what you or me writing matching what their expectations are, what they've decided, are infinitesimally small. So they end up going, oh, that's not what I wanted. Or if you happen to hit the thing that they were expecting, they go, oh, well, I've already guessed that. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You don't get it right. It's a no-win situation. So the only way to win the situation is like Captain Kirk and the Kobayashi Maru thing is cheat. You have to cheat, and you use sleight of hand, and you actually don't end it at all, and you just reach a point in the story where it's kind of bumped into something and something important's happened, but you're saying to the audience, yeah, it's not over. Actually, it's not over, because nothing's over until death, and unless you kill all the characters at once, which I suppose you could, that would be a happy ending, wouldn't it? And even if you do, there are always other people. You could kill all the characters and then introduce other people. No, do you see what I'm saying, though? I deliberately didn't. I knew when I wrote this, I thought, what's the ending? I had an idea of what the ending would be, and I sort of half got to it. But I also said to myself, but there won't actually be an ending. So I'm not going to stress about that now. I'm going to keep writing until I get to this point in the story. And then unless something else has occurred, that will just be the ending. And that's pretty much what happened, really. I think Scott Hancock, the brilliant script editor, and I'm not just saying that in a kind of, oh, everyone's brilliant and lovely and we're all fantastic. He was particularly helpful. When I told him I was saying this to people the other day, he said, was I? He pushed me on the ending. He said, I just think I need, just give me one more positive beat there that, what you're intending. So the little bit between Anna and Daisy at the end, I think I wrote that in response to what Scott asked at that point. Yeah. So sorry about that ending. I mean,
Thanks.
Is it really annoying?
No, it builds anticipation. It makes me think, well, there has to be a series 2 now. There has to be. There's just no question.
Good, you've fallen for it. Well, there has to be. There has to be. I agree. It's Jason, are you listening? There has to be a second series. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it'd be great. No, all in all, I really enjoyed it. Some new experiences there for me, reading along with the script, and I would recommend anyone goes for it and gives it a good listen. It'll be 4 hours of your life that you'll never get back, but you'll be glad to give it away.
Would you? Is there anything you would say to people that if you like this or that or something, you'll like the Human Frontier? What sort of thing do you think people have to be into to like it? I know that's a question you could ask me, but I'm interested in your answer if you don't.
Well,
mind.
like I said, the appeal on the cover didn't grab me as much, like not the artwork or anything, but the idea of it didn't grab me as much as what was in the story. So it was a similar kind of thing to Earthsearch. So the concept of Earthsearch didn't really grab me until I got into it, and then I couldn't stop. So it's one of those things that, you've got to take the leap, you've got to get in, and then it will grab you and won't let you go. Well, it didn't let me go, I can tell you that.
I was very impressed with the photo, actually, because, you may have heard me say that photo on the front cover, there's virtually no CG. The only thing that's CG is the tentacle that's behind her, or the tongue from the creature. Everything else is she's just standing in a spacesuit costume, which we hired, in a car park in North Acton. And it was starting to rain, and a tiny bit of moisture got on the lens and caused that lens flare. We put a light next to her. So that is, what you can see behind me now is actually just the photo, actually, before it was treated, I think. But you can see it's so similar to the actual cover, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great too. And I really enjoyed the extras where Pepta is talking about, because she seems pretty green in terms of audio, and she's getting physically involved with everything and saying, am I doing the right thing? Is this how it's done? And even as a listener of Big Finish, I know that the actors who are having the most fun are the ones who are really physically getting into it. So
I love the fact that she thought that was wrong. And I go, no, I want you to do that. She's, I don't know how else to do it. And I'm exactly the same when I do acting on audio. I quite often whack the microphone and go, oh, sorry, just getting a bit over enthusiastic there.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk to us about The Human Frontier. I know it's because you want lots and lots of people to buy it.
That is why. But it's lovely talking to you. I'd love to come on and do it again.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nicholas Briggs. Thank you. And you can purchase The Human Frontier from, of course, bigfinish.com, and I can highly, highly recommend this one. Even if you are more inclined just to listen to Doctor Who or the Doctor Who universe, step outside, take a chance on this one. You won't be disappointed. That's it for this edition of the Sirens of Audio. We will be back next time with another guest in the chair with me. Next time we're going to be talking about the last two countermeasures releases, the Mavellan Maneuver and the Dalek Gambit. Of course, both featuring Nick Briggs. But our guest for that episode will be another Aussie fan, and this time it will be the fabulous Adam Richard. He's a comedian, but he's been a quiz writer for Hard Quiz. He is a panellist on Whovians. He's even had his own sitcom, folks. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast feed of your description to make sure you're notified the minute the next episode of the Sirens of Audio goes up. If you want to contact me for feedback or for anything really, you can email me, sirensofaudio@gmail.com. Our website's sirensofaudio.com. Twitter, you can contact me at Audio Sirens. We've also got a Facebook group which you can join just by doing a search, and I think that's got us pretty much covered. In the meantime, folks, surround yourself with audio drama, and you know why? Because audio drama rocks! 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 Rocks!